Sir, please join. Prasad garu.
Yeah.
You're పెట్టుకోండి.
Good chair. Start.
Good morning. I am Veena, Secretary of this Federation. I welcome you all to today's interactive session on SFIO, Investigation and Red Flags in Detection of Fraud. We are truly honored to have with us Sri Prasad Adaligaru, IRS, Additional Director of SFIO, Minister of Corporate Affairs, Government of India, Telangana. So welcome you, sir, and thank you so much for taking the time to address the August gathering on this important topic, sir. I would like to recognize the presence of our Vice President, Sri Ravikumar Garu, and Naresh Chandrakali Garu, Chairman of the Corporate Laws, ITs and ADR Committee, co-chairs Dr. Tasnim Sharif and Sri Ritesh Mittal Garu, Advisor V.S. Raj Garu, and one of our members of the Corporate Law Committee and Chartered Accountant, Hanuman Garu. Before beginning the session, I would like to show a short film to the non-members.
1917, the year when a dedicated organization, the Deccan Chamber of Commerce, was formed to encourage trade and commerce activities. The historical journey of the organization has witnessed great transformation as per the changing needs of the industry and businesses. The Federation of Telangana Chambers of Commerce and Industry, FTCCI, a legacy of excellence, voice of the industry, representing interests of over 25,000 businesses of all sizes, sectors and regions, is empowering industry and trade of Telangana state. A world leader in pharma, a global hub for vaccine, home to all major MNCs, leader in IT exports, an emerging first stop of India. FTCCI advocates a pro-business environment, caters to the needs of MSMEs, budding entrepreneurs and traders through its advisory services in taxation, market information, industry-related issues, B2B connection. The Chamber has its nominees in the state-level advisory committees to help drive business productivity. FTCCI aids in providing certificate of origin for exporters, issues visa recommendation for business travels. The Federation imparts job skills through its dedicated skill center. It has adopted 14 government ITIs to improve the employability of students. With a uniquely global perspective, the FTCCI events reach a highly engaged audience, policymakers and stakeholders aiming towards Atmanirbhar Bharat.
FTCCI to work with government, tell us and guide us कि हम लोग क्या कर सकते हैं to remain competitive, to remain better than our competition. FTCCI for joining us, and I thank the office bearers of FTCCI for inviting me. Jai Telangana, Jai Hind.
Come and be a part of this dynamic and proactive organization. Together, let's realize the vision for a progressive future.
Thank you, Venkat. I request the non-members to become members of FTCCI to access the numerous benefits and services offered to the members. Now I request Sri Ravi Kumar Garu to welcome the participants.
Good morning to everyone, and I thank our guest speaker, Mr. Prasad Garu, for accepting to address us on a very important topic. And I also acknowledge the presence of our chair and co-chair and members and past presidents, everyone. And it gives me immense pleasure to warmly welcome all of you who have joined us online today. We are honored to have our chief guest and the speaker, Mr. Prasad Garu, and who graciously accepted when we met him last time about a month ago and requested him to address our federation people. We also acknowledge the presence of members and management committee and past presidents here. And today, our gathering is focused on a topic of paramount importance, namely SFIO, investigation and red flag in detection of fraud. It's something very important and is something very valuable for all of us to know this. This subject is very relevant to the corporate community and we must all comprehensively understand it. As the name suggests, the Serious Fraud Investigation Office is a statutory corporate fraud investigation agency in India set up to investigate serious and complex frauds under the Companies Act 2013. As the Chamber of Commerce and Industry, representing the interests of industry, trade and commerce, we are deeply committed to the growth and well-being of companies. In light of this commitment, we have organized today's session to shed light on SFIO, investigation and red flag in detection fraud, to assist companies and their officers so that their officers who can avoid arrest and prosecution, especially in cases of alleged fraud or the oppression of minority shareholders. In this context, I won't take much time. I will not take more time. And our distinguished speaker, Sri Prasad Garu, will impact valuable insight from his extensive experience. We only welcome and thank him for his willingness to address our participants. Thank you all for gracing this occasion with your presence.
I request our Chair, Corporate Law, IBC and JDR Committee, C. Naresh Chandra Garu, to deliver his introductory remarks.
Distinguished guest and speaker, Sri Prasad Adili, Additional Director of Investigation, Serious Fraud and Investigation Office, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Hyderabad. The Vice President of FTCCI, Sri R. Ravi Kumar Garu, Co-Chairs of Corporate Laws, IBC and ADR Committee, Dr. Tasneem Sharif and T.A. Ritesh Mittal, Advisor, Sri V.S. Garu, members of Managing Committee and past President, members of Corporate Laws and IBC Committee, invitees and delegates. Good afternoon to all of you. I'm delighted to extend a warm welcome to each one of you for today's session, which focuses on SFIO investigation and detection of frauds. We are honored to Sri Prasad Adili, Additional Investigation as the previous fraud and investigation office, Minister Hyderabad, as our esteemed speaker. We sincerely thank you for his gracious acceptance for our invitation to address our participants. The theme for today's session revolves around SFIO investigation and detection of frauds. SFIO is a multidisciplinary organization under the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. The experts in accounting, forensic audit, law, information technology, investigation, company law, capital markets, taxation, and dedicated detection, protection, or recommendations for prosecution for white-collar crimes and frauds. Today's session is designed to provide valuable updates to stakeholders for the investigation and views and observations of SFIO. I encourage all delegates to actively participate, speak, any query on this topic, and make most of the valuable insights that our distinguished speaker is here to share. We hope that by the end of this session, you will leave with newfound confidence and satisfaction. Before concluding my address, I would like to inform all of you to keep all the industry, traders, professionals, and students updated on latest developments in the field of corporate law, ADR, IBC. The committee is organizing several webinars, workshops, and interactive meetings. In this sense, I would like to inform all the members who are participating as of now that on 28th October, a one-day corporate summit is being planned and eminent speakers are invited. I request all the delegates to please visit our website ftcci.in and go to the event section for you to register and participate in this important event. And also request all the non-members to please join the Chamber of Commerce, and you will see the benefit as you over a period of time. I also request all the participants to please share the program events among your known contacts from time to time, so that everyone can take advantage of that event and invite them to join the Chamber of Commerce. So I welcome Prasad Garu and all the delegates for this interactive meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I request CA Hanuman Garu to introduce our esteemed guest of honor today to the participants.
Good morning to all. Our distinguished Vice President, Naresh Gedi Garu, and Ravi Kumar Garu, Naresh Gedi Garu. I am honored to introduce our today's speaker, Sri Prasad Adeli Garu. Sri Prasad Adeli, IRS, presently working as Additional Director, Serious Fraud Investigation Office, Regional Officer, Hyderabad, under Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Government of India, from an Indian Revenue Service. He with over 20 years of rich experience in various government departments. He is specialized in developing intelligence and investigation in both anti-smuggling as well as detecting white-collar crimes. He possesses deep understanding of statutes and procedures and adapt at creating and implementing effective intelligence and investigative methods. He is specialized in handling various analytical tools, software, and systems in developing intelligence. As part of his job, he keeps liaison with foreign countries, Indian missions and enforcement agencies abroad like WCO, Regional Intelligence Liaison Office, CIAL, and Interpol. He also keeps liaison with all important enforcement agencies within the country like CBI, CEIB, DGFT, IB, ED, CIF, NIA, NCB, IT, Police, Coast Guard, Immigration, Wildlife, Forest, etc. He also has received many commendations from senior officers of various formations of Central Excise, Customs, Service Tax, and Director of Revenue Intelligence from time to time. During 2019, he was awarded with Director General's this award 2019 by Member Investigation and Director General, Directorate of Revenue Intelligence, New Delhi, for meritorious service. He is also recipient of Udyog Ratna Award for the year 2019 by the Delhi Telugu Academy. With this brief introduction, I present Sri Prasad Adeli Garu to this gathering. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. With this insightful background, I request Sri Prasad Adeli Garu to address our members.
Thank you so much.
Ji.
Are you able to see the PPT?
We are in the position to do. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Just a minute. Yeah. Good morning to all of you, and thank you so much for those kind words. See, I would like to introduce the SFIO to you all. I think you are all are aware of the SFIO and what is the mandate given to the SFIO now. Just to recap, we are the India's premier investigating agency. We are at the forefront in the fortifying the enforcement efforts of the central government. Could you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think this video is it's frozen, so I thought I don't know whether I'm able to.
Sir, it's audible, but a little problem at your end, I think, so just re-look into it.
Okay.
We're on to second slide now.
Okay, right. So, Serious Fraud Investigating Agency, as you know, it's a multidisciplinary organization to investigate corporate frauds. We usually handle critical investigations that have a very deep impact on the lives of persons, including the corporate entities. So the start of SFIOs, that seed sown somewhere in 90s. 90s were, witnessed many failures of non-banking financial institutions, and there is a phenomena of vanishing companies, plantation companies, and followed with 2000 stock market. So all these things led to meltdown in the security markets, as well as resulted in huge financial losses to the public. So JPC was set up to inquire into the stock markets. And also there is a committee called the Naresh Chandra Committee, which was set up on corporate governance to examine various corporate governance issues. And then the Naresh Chandra Committee highlighted that there is a need for expeditious completion of investigation of corporate frauds and punish the guilty. There was a general feeling that corporate are indulging in all sorts of financial frauds, and they are just getting away with it by dragging the litigation and etc. So there was a need felt that the investigations has to be completed expeditiously, and the guilty has to be punished and prosecuted very in a fast manner. So all these developments led to announcement of the Serious Fraud Investigation Office in 30th July 2002. Then it came into being on 1st October 2003. So what we do investigations, and also we launch prosecutions against the individuals and corporates. So first I'll just cover about the investigations, and then white collar crimes. White collar crimes. What are white collar crimes? You're aware that white collar crimes are committed by educated and privileged people who are holding respectable positions and who willfully circumvent the laws. This is generally called as white collar crimes. So any offense against any statutory provision in order to get undue advantage is a white collar crime. So previously what these people used to do is that only individuals are used to indulge in such crimes. Now that because of the scale and complexity, now the white collar crimes have moved from individuals to organizations. So people are coming together in collusion and committing this type of frauds and this type of criminal activities. So once people are coming together, are doing, then it is very difficult for us to detect such frauds, because these frauds are carried out in-house and with collusion and as well as secrecy. So it's very difficult to identify the white collar crimes. So one such a white collar crime is corporate fraud. Such type of frauds are assigned to the SFIO by the central government through the Minister of Corporate Affairs for investigation. Usually all investigation will not come to the SFIO. Only central government considers only important cases that are to be assigned to the SFIO for investigation. What type of cases? The cases where complexity is there and where the interdepartmental issues are there and where the multidisciplinary ramifications are. That type of cases are given to SFIO for investigation. And also where substantial involvement of public interest is there in terms of monetary as well as persons affected. If the monetary misappropriation is more than 5,000 crores or something like that, or if the persons affected are 2,000 or more, such type of cases are given to the SFIO. And also where investigation, if it is contributing to a clear improvement in systems, are also given to the SFIO. Because during the course of investigation, we'll come to know that in system, these are the issues, these are the lacunae or weaknesses, and then these systemic improvements are required. So such type of study also we undertake, and we suggest to the ministry that such and such things can be changed or amended, things like that. So such type of cases are given to the SFIO. Now we conduct investigations under the Companies Act and as well as under the LLP Act. Then let us concentrate on fraud. What is fraud? Fraud is nothing but a planned trickery. So in a broadest sense, we can say that fraud is a crime using dishonest methods to get something out of a person or organization. So it is deceitfully getting something. Usually what happens in fraud is that the fraud committer will have certain information which the victim may not be having. So the fraud committer will make use of this information and get undue benefits and dupe the victim. So in India, there are so many laws governing the fraud, such as Indian Contract Act, Indian Penal Code, Prevention of Corruption Act, and Prevention of Money Laundering Act, and the Companies Act. So then according to Companies Act, what is fraud? So as per the Companies Act 2013 first time defined what is fraud. The Companies Act, as you are aware, that focuses on affairs of the companies and issues relating to corporate frauds. So fraud in relation to affairs of a company or body corporate is defined under section 447 of the Companies Act, which includes any act, any omission, concealment of any facts, abuse of position by any person, connivance in any manner with the intention to deceive, to gain undue advantage from, or to injure the interest of the company or its shareholders or its creditors or any other person, whether or not there is any wrongful gain or wrongful loss. So it's a very, very wide definition wherein everybody under the sky will come under this definition. So the corporate frauds, how corporate frauds takes place? The corporate fraud takes place when a company purposefully provides dishonest information and deliberately changes or conceals sensitive information with an intention to gain an advantage. This is done by misinformation in the prospectus. The prospectus is a very important document wherein all relevant and vital information is disclosed about a company. If I manipulate the prospectus, if I manipulate the figures in the prospectus, automatically it gives a rosy pictures. So misinformation in the prospectus and manipulating the accounting records, etc., will allow people to deceive and to get undue advantage. Now, how the falsification of financial happens? And you are all aware that in the financial statements, they may incorporate false accounting entries, or they incorporate accommodation entries. They show bogus sales and purchases, and also by showing the bogus sales and purchases, they enhance the turnovers to give a rosy picture of the financial health of the company. So once this type of rosy picture is given to the people, automatically this company will attract more investors. So these more investors will invest into the company thinking that this is a good company. But whereas in reality, this may not be a good company. So this evergreening of financials helps the companies to get more funds from the market as well as from the lenders also. Now, first of all, we need to understand what is fraud and how it works. To know that, we should know why people commit fraud. This is very important. To stop fraud from happening, we should understand why people commit frauds. There can be so many reasons. I mean, it can be greed or lack of transparency, lack of internal control system, and poor management, non-existence of internal controls or internal audit, and lack of moral or ethical direction from the senior management. So many reasons can be there. So this fraud triangle, the fraud triangle is developed by Donald Cressy. This fraud triangle, explains us why people commit frauds. Donald Cressy has, done his research on trust violators. I mean, trust violators means that people whom we trust the most will, deceive us and, violates the trust. So the research of Donald Cressy was based on this type of trust violators. So the fraud triangle, if you see, consists of three components. They are opportunity, pressure, and rationalization. All these components together present an opportunity for a person to commit frauds. Employees commit frauds because there are opportunities offered by the company, and there is a pressure to make use of those opportunities, and there is a justifiable explanation available if the person gets caught. Now, what is opportunity? Opportunity is nothing but conditions that allow a fraudster to commit fraud. This opportunity is generally provided through the weaknesses in the company, especially in the internal controls. In this fraud triangle, this is the only component that the company exercises complete control over. If the company is, properly managed, and if the company is having all the checks and balances, internal control in place, then the company will never give any opportunity for the fraud committers to do the fraud. So this is very important because the company has to exercise, complete control over the, checks and balances. So what are all the opportunities? Now, weak internal controls is one of the opportunity. You are aware, internal controls are processes, implemented to ensure the integrity of the accounting and financial information. So if the weak controls means weak internal control means there is no integrity of the accounting and financial information. So therefore, there is a possibility that the fraudsters may, misuse this, weak internal controls. And also, weak internal controls also happen through the poor separation of duties. If a single person is taking decision of taking a loan or budgetary allocation and expenses and payment, everything is done by only one person, there is a possibility of fraud. So lack of supervision also, and very poor documentation process also gives rise opportunities for the fraud. Then poor management at the top. As I told you, if the management is strict and they are very strict with the checks and balances and internal control, they send a very, very, very right signal. Like they send a signal stating that they are ethical, they are showing integrity, and they are very honest. If such type of signals are sent, then the fraudsters will not venture into doing the frauds. But if the top management is showing a very poor tone, then there is a possibility, and there is every possibility for fraud to be committed by the fraudsters. There are there are also accounting standards are there. I mean, accounting standards, that how the items are, recorded in the financial statements. If inadequate accounting standards are there, again, they provide a very, very good opportunity for the employees to manipulate the numbers. The second component of the fraud triangle is the pressure. Pressure we can alternatively called as incentive or motivation, which refers to employees' mindset towards the towards committing fraud. Why and why the people commit fraud, and what are those situations? What are those pressure situations? Like you're aware that promotions, incentives, and bonuses are normally given to the people on achievement of revenue targets or generation of additional income. So if the promotions, incentives, and bonuses are only based on this financial metric, then it creates pressure on the employees to meet the targets or to get more revenue. This may cause them to commit frauds by manipulating the numbers. And there are investor and analyst expectations are also a pressure point. Like, as every investor, he wants his company in which he has invested to do better in a short span of time. This is normal. And company is expected to excel in all parameters to get good credit ratings for the positive reviews. So this need to meet and exceed the investors and analyst expectations also can create pressure to commit fraud by the people by manipulating numbers in the financials. And also another pressure point is personal problems. The personal problems may include wanting to earn more money, and there are maybe possibility of need for paying bills, debt, greed, lifestyle needs, and addictions such as gambling, drugs, etc. This forces the employees to indulge in fraudulent activities because they will not be in a position to meet all their expenses from their salaries. So since there is a requirement of money and there is a salary is very less and requirements are more, this tempts the people to go for fraudulent activities. The third component of the fraud triangle is rationalization. So rationalization occurs when individuals develops a justification for the fraudulent behavior. That means if this fellow get caught, he will come up with a proper answer, proper justification as to why he has committed such type of fraud. Like, they treated me wrong. Any individual who is spiteful towards their manager or employer, they believe that committing fraud is a way of getting back at them. They treated me wrong, so I have to do this. So it's vengeance, maybe jealousy also. And then top management is also doing it. If very poor tone at the top, may cause the individual to follow in the footsteps of the unethical top management. And there is a possibility of that there is no, a person may think that there is no other solution. If any person believes that, there is no other solution, if he is not going to do this fraudulent activity, he may lose job or he may lose everything. Also, forces he or she to commit frauds. So the breaking this fraudulent, the fraud triangle is very, very important and key to fraud deterrence. If we remove one of the elements in the fraud triangle, then we can successfully reduce the likelihood of this fraudulent behavior of the people. Because as I was telling you, the company have a complete control over the opportunity. So this is where we have to tighten our belts and we have to see that we should not allow any sort of opportunity to be given to the fraudsters. Now, what are all the regulatory laws, other laws on the fraud? So while we are investigating the company affairs, we may come across so many things. Those violations can be income tax violations, central excise violations, service tax violations, or customs violations. So whenever we come across such type of violations, we share that information with the other agencies like income tax, central excise, GST, customs, VAT, ED, CBI, RBI, SEBI. Now we'll come to, we know that now what are all the frauds, why and how people commit frauds, and what are all the regulatory acts which governs the frauds, investigation of frauds. Now let us come to the classification of frauds. The Association of Certified Fraud Examiners, they classifies the frauds as 3 types, like internal fraud, external frauds, and frauds against the individuals. So internal frauds are also called as occupational frauds. It is done by people from within the organization. There may be employees or managers, officers, or maybe owners of a company. So these people, like the employees, insiders only, will be doing the frauds. So such type of frauds are called as internal frauds. The external frauds, the fraud against a company is done by outsiders, like third parties. So like vendors, there can be customers, vendors, and other parties. So they indulge in such type of frauds against a company. This may be including submission of bogus bills and demanding bribes from the employees for providing bogus bills, and false claims and false refund, theft of intellectual property by the third parties. All these things comes under the external frauds. And then the fraud against individuals. Numerous fraudsters have also devised schemes to defraud individuals, such as Ponzi schemes, collection of unauthorized deposits, phishing schemes like sending targeted emails, etc. These are all called as frauds against individuals. Now let us come to the red flags. What is a red flag? Red flag, or we can call it as a early warning signal also. This red flag or early warning signal is nothing but a set of circumstances that are unusual in nature or vary from the normal activity. Something different, something hatke, then that is a red flag. If normally things are not happening, things are happening in an unusual way or abnormal way, that gives us a signal. So if such type of signal comes or a red flag comes, then we need to investigate it further. You have to remember this point, that red flags do not indicate guilt or innocence, either guilt or innocence. It only provides us a possible warning signals or signs that we should verify, and we should confirm that nothing is improper, everything is proper. So while looking into the red flags, 2 important things we need to keep it in mind. One is that we should not ignore a red flag. That is the first point we should keep it in mind, because numerous studies shows that there are red flags, but these red flags were either not recognized or not acted upon by anybody. So once a red flag is noticed, somebody should have to act on it and to find whether fraud is happening or not. The second important point to be noted is that sometimes an error is just an error. Red flags should lead to some kind of action. Sometimes abnormal things may happen just because of a bona fide error also. There may not be any fraud involved in it, but we need to understand the difference between the two. If any unusual behavior and unusual circumstances are there, then immediately we need to inform a very responsible and measured person in the organization to take a call on it, whether to go ahead with it or not. So then what are the types of red flags? So red flags can be categorized into employee red flags and management red flags. What are employee red flags? You know, as I said, in majority of the cases, frauds against the company is committed by its own employees. So these employees who wants to commit fraud always in lookout for an opportunity, because opportunities are created by the company because of so many weaknesses in the internal controls of the company. So if any opportunity is there, then automatically the employee who wants to commit fraud, grab that opportunity with both of his hands, and he will not hesitate to commit it if there are low chances of getting caught. Even if he gets caught also, he will come up with some justification, some beautiful answer. So what are those red flags? Lifestyle changes is one of the red flags. So usually the employees are expected to live within their means. As per their salary, they do, they spend on various things. So they buy assets or go for purchasing a flat or house and things like that, and spending on them and luxury cars, that based on their salary, their income only. So usually we expect that the employees are expected to live within their means. But if suddenly there is some change in the lifestyle of a company, lifestyle of the employee, and suddenly you see that a particular employee is spending a lot more money, more than their paycheck allows, such as buying a very expensive cars or houses and luxury goods, then we need to be very careful about. This type of employees' lifestyle exceeds that of their superiors also many a times. So therefore, an abrupt enhancement in employees' lifestyles without a proportionate increase in his salary or income should be investigated to see if there is any hanky-panky is happening. And the second red flag is history of debts. During the hiring process, many of the companies, it is suggested that people should do the background check of the person or the potential employee, whether he is having a history of debts or not. Because when a company hires the employee with debt problems, there is a likelihood that he will find ways to get that extra income, because he has a lot of debts to repay, and his salary is insufficient. So this means that this employee with history of debts may engage in this opportunity fraud and obtain the money in wrongful ways. Involving in gambling and betting is another red flag. Sometimes employees are engage in gambling or betting to get quick money, because there is a huge requirement for money. He has a lot of needs, he has to pay bills. So this is an addiction. They can't come out of this gambling and betting addiction. So what they do, the employees will spend entire salary of theirs on this type of activities. So automatically, as you are aware, in the gambling, what is the percentage of success? So ultimately, the entire salary will go into this type of activities, and it becomes income becomes insufficient to finance this type of activities. So this may force the people to get into the fraudulent activities and to get the extra money, unauthorized money in a fraudulent manner. So if such type of people are engaged, people are there in the company, then they will engage in the fraudulent activities such as stealing the organization's assets and manipulating the inventory and making extraordinary claims, etc. And behavioral change is also one of the important red flags. Sometimes there is sudden change in the behavior of employees. This may be on account of many personal problems, not necessarily leads to the fraudulent behavior, but we should be careful about such type of behavioral changes also. Like personal problems like love failure, divorce, depression, or dependence on drugs or alcoholism. Or else sometimes there is a fear of losing job also force the people to indulge in fraudulent activities. So these are, then, and if, when such type of people are there, and then if the people are using and they are controlling the cash flows of a company, then automatically these people will indulge into the embezzlement of this cash. Because once such type of people, what sort of people who will do embezzlement? So we can say that red flags for the embezzlement. So borrowing money from the co-workers and creditors appearing at the workplace, gambling beyond the ability to stand the losses, and then excessive drinking and doing drugs, easily unavoided reasonable questioning, and providing unreasonable responses to the questions. These are all some red flags for embezzlement of cash. Sometimes people refuse to take any vacation or sick leave, even if they are seriously ill also, they don't want to take leave. They want to come and do the work. They show to the management that see how sincere they are. Even in sickness also they are coming and doing it. But this may not be correct in all cases. Because if a new person is attending to his job, then there is a possibility that the new person may come to know of his secrets. So to avoid that situation, some people refuse to take leave, and we should be very careful about that. This may be an indicator for the fraudulent behavior of the employee. Then lack of segregation of duties. In some important vulnerable areas, there won't be any segregation of duties. So a single person is doing all the important jobs. So if the powers are concentrated in hands of few, and that no delegation of powers are there, then there is a weak point for committing a fraud. So these are some of the important employee red flags. Then what are all the management red flags? So some of the management red flags are reluctance to provide information to auditors. All the companies, majority of the companies do this. This is very common in many organizations. The organization don't share the relevant information to the auditors at all. They think that by providing all the information, auditors will come to know of the wrongdoing and they will get caught. So many times, the companies don't even furnish the proper information to the auditors. So what happens is that auditors many times will not comment on many crucial things because of the lack of information, or sometimes they may make very, very bland disclosures. This can be an indication of management fraud. So sometimes what the companies do is to prevent sharing of information, they engage in quarrels, fightings with the auditors. So the focus is diverted from asking documentation. Missing document is another important management red flags. Missing document is not uncommon. It is common, in any company, any big company. But if the frequency of missing document is, very, very high, then there is a sign of ongoing fraud within the organization. So if such type of missing documents are there, if the missing registration documents of motor vehicles are there, and if the list of sale purchases are missing, checkbooks are missing, inventory reports are missing, then audit reports, stock audit reports, stock inventory are missing, then probably there is a point we should be thinking about, because this may lead to some unavoidable and undesirable situation, which ultimately the companies will lose certain assets or monies. Then another important red flag is issuance of multiple invoices. Now, sometimes these companies issue invoices for the same goods, many invoices for the same goods. They use different names such as an indent, purchase order, pro forma invoice, export invoice, commercial invoice, or simple invoice, purchase bill. They use lot of names, and by using this lot of names, they may give multiple invoices for the same transaction. So if the multiple invoices are being given regularly, then multiple payments also have to be made. And in order to pay, organizations use multiple institutions to assist in financing. So that way, money manipulation happens and money will be given to the other parties. But this multiple invoicing not necessarily a manipulative method always. It's a very common practice to issue multiple invoices for the same transaction due to amendments or corrections. It's normal. Giving multiple invoice, more than one invoice for a same transaction is not a abnormal activity. But thing is that if the people are wantedly giving multiple invoices, then we need to be wary about. And even if we get caught, even if the companies get caught, the management will come up with various explanations as to why and how they have given so many invoices. The another red flag is multiple payments. Now, because companies, if some fraudulent fellow is there, then he will, indulge in multiple payments to a particular vendor for a single transaction. If the mistake was genuine, it's possible that sometimes due to oversight or error, the monies may go once or twice to a same person for the same transaction. But if it is a genuine transaction, then the management will take corrective measures and they get back money. But if it is intentional, then the duplicate payments will be made to fake companies or sham companies or for sham transactions. Sometimes it may happen that the companies or management make payments to non-existing companies also. So we need to be careful if the multiple payments are identified. Then manipulation of invoices is another red flag, because it is normal that many companies, in order to get more bank borrowings, they indulge in manipulation in the invoices. They misdeclare the description of the goods, or they do over invoicing or under invoicing or bogus invoicing, all sorts of nonsense that people will indulge into, because the reasons may be different. So with reference to misdeclaration, the goods are misdeclared in terms of quantity. If the quantity is misdeclared, then automatically the value also will be misdeclared. The quality, description of the goods and value can be misdeclared to get undue advantage. Misdeclaration can also help the management to get undue advantage of lower tax rates, and to get exemptions, to circumvent the restrictions or conditions, or also to circumvent the licensing agreement. People may indulge in misdeclaration. Under invoicing, this form of deceitfully buying and selling the goods, the transfer value will allow the company to move the money from seller company to the buyer company. Say for example, if the seller company is selling a good worth of 1 lakh for 50,000 only, then this goes to the buyer, and buyer will sell the goods in the market and get far higher value than the purchase value. That way money will move from one company to the another company. So the seller, in such type of scenario, the seller company will suffer losses. So to match this type of transactions, the false sets of books of accounts or accounting records are created and match the transactions. So this way money will move from in under invoicing, money will move from the seller company to the buyer company. In respect of over invoicing, why it's completely opposite. The seller company will get more money into his this thing. So without any FERA, FEMA, all those things, the monies can be simply transferred from one company to the another company by indulging in such type of over invoicing and under invoicing, whether you want to get transfer money or not. Then Another important red flag is spike in invoice volume. So sometimes what happens is that when the company is in growing phase, in the peak of its performance, there will be huge number of invoices issued, either for purchase invoice or a sale invoice. So these type of huge number of invoices create room for fraudulent behavior. Sometimes what happens is that, if the, so many number of invoices are there, there is a possibility that, some recording of invoices may be missed out of the books of accounts, or sometimes, lower values may be booked. So this way, whenever spike is there in invoice volume, then management should be wary about it, and they should ensure that all the invoices are, properly recorded. Then another red flag is frequent complaints. So sometimes what happens is, companies do get, complaints, regular complaints on a particular person or a process. If regular repeated complaints are coming against any person or process, then that can be an indicator of fraud. Because when such type of repeated complaints are coming against any executive or any senior manager, we should not assume that is an ordinary venting. We should instead verify it and conduct the investigation to see whether the complaint is genuine or not. If the complaint is genuine, we have to take the corrective measures. And there is a possibility, sometimes there is a possibility of getting complaints on a packaging, maybe packaging department. So if the frequent short shipment complaints are coming, we should see whether this is one of its kind, or then there is a deliberate problem in the packaging department. So frequent complaints also an important red flag. So then there is an excessive number of adjustment entries are also a red flag, because adjustment entries are common. But thing is that if the adjustment entries are happening without any corresponding notes explaining the reasons for such adjustment, then that is an indicator. Sometimes inventory shrinkage is also an indicator, because normally sometimes companies may lose few items of inventory. That's not abnormal. It's normal thing only. But regular reduction in excess reduction in inventory is a possible red flag for the management to look into. Sometimes the management's decisions are taken by a single individual or a group of individuals. So if this type of things are happening, they give very, very scant regard to the compliances. So we need to be careful about such type of things also. And as I was telling you, the lack of internal control system is a big red flag for the management to look into. So then management, sometimes what happens is that there is a possibility of frequent change in the bank account, and there is a possibility that the fraudulent management indulge in getting on board inexperienced auditors or freshly passed out auditors, or changes the auditors regularly, and the assets are sold below the market price, and continuous rollover of loans, and refusal by a company to use serial number invoices and receipts. These are some of the red flags, management red flags. Then there can be other red flags also, like red flags in cash and accounts receivable. Because cash is the most often misappropriated thing. We should be careful if excess number of mistakes are happening regularly in the invoices, like discounts, overwriting, and regular sales returns. And if they are operating through unauthorized bank accounts, and if there is any discrepancies between the bank deposits and the postings, then abnormal expenses on routine items, unjustified cash transactions, written offs, these are all the things which we should be very careful in respect of cash and accounts receivable. Sometimes, there can be red flags in the payrolls also. Usually payroll is an automated function, but it is a vulnerable area. Especially if the collision is there, then we need to be careful about the payroll mismanagement also. Like, inconsistent overtime hours of a cost center, or giving overtime where there is no possibility of overtime, and giving overtime or salary to employees with bogus or duplicate identities. These type of things also we need to look into. And there are, red flags, huge red flags in purchasing and inventory management. So these things we need to be very, very careful. Like, increasing in number of complaints about a product, and lack of physical security over the inventory, and payments without shipping documents, high volume purchase from new vendors, and vendors addresses matching with the employee address, and there is no physical address available. These are all certain red flags in the purchasing inventory. So what are the takeaways from these red flags? The red flags, we need to be very careful, because the organizations are increasingly becoming susceptible to the frauds. To prevent fraud from happening, organizations must first acknowledge that the fraud is existing. It exists, and now that it exists, we have to create awareness among the stakeholders. By how and why, what we should do. Organizations should start training their employees. They should do awareness campaigns about it, and they train their employees on how to detect the fraud, and they should implement policies and procedures that will help them seal the loopholes. During the course of our investigations, various investigations, we have analyzed what are all the high risk areas that the companies should be wary about. Like, frauds occur in two important scenarios. One is raising funds, another is utilization of funds. How the monies are raised? Monies are raised as a form of collection of deposits, or it can be raised from the stock market. It can be raised from loan from banks, or loans from companies or individuals. This is where the raising of money happens. So another is the collection of deposits from public is one way of raising the money, like Ponzi schemes, multi-level marketings, and pyramid schemes. You are all aware how these Ponzi schemes and MLM and pyramid schemes work. So I need not go into this. So this is unauthorized collection of deposits from the people. So another way of raising fund is from stock market. How they do this, the stock market manipulation. So these people, fraudulent people, what they do, they induce the people to invest into the company by misrepresenting the information in their prospectus. Therefore, they will, induce the people to invest in IPOs or FPOs, etc. How they do? They manipulate the financial. They simply, misstate the numbers in the prospectus to, dupe the people. And then people raise huge money from the banks also, banks and financial institutions also. So they take, they take loans from the banks and financial institutions by inflating the project cost, by over invoicing the plant and machinery. They raise excess, working capital loans also by overvaluing the inventory and booking bogus expenses. Sometimes they do circular trading among the companies, and they show their good turnovers, and based on those good and bogus turnovers, they approach the bankers or financial institutions to get more loans. Sometimes this trading is only on paper, because there won't be any movement of goods. This is only to get loans and deposits. So when enough money is taken, when enough money is raised, what they do is they open fictitious firms and they charge bogus expenses to these companies, to misappropriate or divert the funds. So sometimes they do fraud by using forged documents and accounts. By using forged documents and accounts, they withdraw the monies from the company. Sometimes what happens is, they indulge in, trade transaction with related parties. So there will be huge turnovers between the related party. Nothing wrong if they are indulging. I mean, they are doing trading with a related party. But only thing is that the amount should be at arm's length. The relation should be at arm's length. If the relationship is at arm's length and value of the product is at arm's length, there is no problem. But what happens is that wantedly they do huge turnovers between the related party which are not at arm's length, and then the money will be diverted from one company to the other companies. Then usage of bogus and fake invoices is also a high risk area, by which the amounts will be removed from the company. And another important aspect is service invoices. Service is intangible in nature, so it is very difficult to prove whether this is a fake transaction or not. Sometimes fudging of books of accounts and financials to show a healthy picture of the company. Then lending to related parties, another area where it will be shown as outstanding and it will be never repaid. And sometimes they indulge in trading transactions with the foreign companies, and the goods are exported to the related parties, and then the monies will never come back. Sometimes for diversion, people come up with some crazy ideas of showing some contract clauses. If a certain service is not provided within the time limit, a penalty will be levied. There is because it's wantedly they'll enter into such type of transaction, and there is no intention of providing the service within the time, because that is not the point. The point is to somehow transfer the money. So these fellows will never complete the project within the time, and they will end up paying money and divert the monies. So there will be clauses like providing substandard service also attracts penalties, and payment of royalty, expert opinion, consultancy charges, these type of things we should be very careful about, because these are the high risk areas where here because of these activities the money will be siphoned out of the company. There are sometimes misuse of assets also will be there. Sometimes the assets of the company are sold or hypothecated without the knowledge of the company. So these are the high risk areas. Therefore, we can sum up the factors that contribute to fraud. Simply said, poor internal controls, management overriding the internal controls, compromised management, collusion between the management and employees or among employees, or collusion between the employees and third parties. These are the factors which contribute to the fraud. Now that we know that the frauds happening and how the frauds happen and what are the factors, now we should how to detect the fraud and how to prevent the fraud is also very important. As losses on account of fraud is increasing, companies are wary about such type of frauds, that they are proactively developing and implementing the robust fraud detection and deterrence programs, because everything at stake for the company. The brand value, the business, the profits and losses, everything is at stake. Therefore, the companies are increasingly, adopting the fraud deterrence programs. So the one of the key element for the fraud deterrence program is a fraud risk assessment. Now, what is fraud risk assessment? Fraud risk assessment is nothing but, if we engage an agency which do the fraud risk assessment, what essentially they do is they go through each and every area of the organization. They verify their, the books of accounts, their internal controls, their processes, their policies, their procedures. They look into their assets and financial documentation, everything they will they will verify and they identify the weaknesses. Where are the weaknesses? Or where are the probable fraud risk areas to the organization? It can be internal also, it can be external also. So they analyze those risk areas and they develop an action plan for mitigating the risks. What are these risks and how to mitigate this risk? They will come up with a fraud assessment. So now that this is becoming a very important area, the fraud experts are suggesting that the most cost-effective way to limit fraud losses is to utilize the fraud prevention checklist. Now, what is this fraud prevention checklist? This checklist helps the organizations to test the effectiveness of their fraud prevention measures. This checklist focuses primarily on 4 issues, like as I already told you, the employee fraud awareness, the internal control systems, the reporting system, and the training. The first point is that whether the employees are aware of what fraud is. This is very, very important. Usually we don't recognize that there is a fraud and there is a threat of fraud or the fraud is happening. We should first of all identify it, and we should first of all understand it, and we should make the employees also aware of what is fraud is. First of all, we should see whether the employees understand what constitutes the fraud. Have the cost of fraud to the company and everyone is made clear to the employees or not? That is very important. This includes lost profits, adverse publicity, job loss, and decreased morale and productivity. So all these things we should emphasize, and we should make very clear to each and every employee. And also whether the employees know that where to seek the advice if they are battling with certain unethical, or I mean to say uncertain ethical decisions. If such type of situation, fishy situation is happening, people should know where to seek an advice. And also people should be aware. We should make aware. We should communicate in no unnecessary terms that the company follows the zero tolerance for fraud. This we need to make it very clear to the employees that no hanky-panky is allowed in the company. Now, once we make aware of the people, still sometimes there is a possibility that there is a weakness in the system. Because of that, there is a possibility of a fraud. Then if that is the case, then they should have a reporting mechanism in place. We should see that there should be an effective fraud reporting mechanism in place. So we should train the people. We should teach the people as to how to communicate the concerns about a potential fraud or potential wrongdoing. Because people may not come forward and report, we should ensure that there is a anonymous reporting channel available. If the anonymous reporting channel available, then automatically employees may come and report without any fear. And also we should have trust on the people, because we should trust our employees. Then only the people will come and report to the suspicious activity without any fear of reprisal. And also we should give that confidence to the employees that even if any suspicious activity is reported, then it will be promptly evaluated or looked into. Then comes the third one, is the training. Whether we are giving sufficient training to the employees in a regular intervals to highlight the drawbacks of the committing frauds, and what are all the repercussions, and how to report suspicious activity, and how to make the employees participate in the program. So these trainings are also very important to the employees. And last and very important thing is internal controls. Is there any internal control in place, or strong internal controls are in place or not? Whether effective internal controls are there or not, we should be very careful about it, because internal controls only makes or breaks the company. We should ensure proper separation of duties, and authorized persons only should be allowed to do the sensitive works, and we should ensure physical safeguards and job rotations and mandatory vacations we have to give, and we should ensure the functioning of a independent internal audit department. Not only that, we should ensure we should careful about our hiring policy also. Like we should do the past employee verification, whether criminal or civil any cases are there, whether he is having any debt problems, whether he is having any, whether he is prone to gambling, drugs, this, that. So these are all the things which parameters which we should keep in mind, so that we can avoid the frauds from happening. So some of the investigations the SFIO conducted are, Ketan Parekh Group companies. This is a stock market case which we have investigated in 2001 and 2, and there are again a stock market scam which we have investigated. That is IPO scam of 2005. And we have investigated another important, the very local Satyam Computers case. Because we all are aware of Satyam Computers case, I want to take up this Satyam scam for discussion. Because how, simple misstatement in the financials have created havoc among the investors. This Satyam scam is a very good example of that. So the Satyam scam is widely regarded as the debacle of Indian financial system. It is often referred to as Indian Enron. It was a 7,332 crores of fraud in 2009, not now. See the quantum. In 2009 itself, it's a fraud to the tune of 7,332 crores. This fraud is a very good example as to how disastrously investors can lose money by simply misstating figures in the balance sheet. You're all aware that Satyam Computers started in 1987 in Hyderabad by Raju brothers, Ramalinga Raju and Ramaraju. They were engaged in the business of providing software services world over. The company was quite successful, and it has grown into a very large company with more than 50,000 employees spread across 66 countries. So, because of this stupendous success, they went forward to get the company listed in the Bombay Stock Exchange as well as the New York Stock Exchange. This company proved to be a master in its field and bagged many awards. Ramalinga Raju became chairman in 2006, and he got the award of Ernst & Young Entrepreneur in 2007. Soon their revenues, annual revenues crossed 2 billion by the end of 2008. Huge. The company spread its wings to many countries and the business bloomed day by day. It has become the 4th largest information technology service provider in India in terms of revenue, number of employees, and the market capitalization. Behind this exemplary performance and innovative management lies a dirty face of its promoters who cooked up the books of accounts of the company for so many years. The tension started when Raju brothers decided to merge Satyam with the companies called Mitas. Mitas companies are managed by Raju's family. So the merger of two companies gave rise to various legal issues, leaving Raju brothers in trouble. Trouble started with a complaint made by one ex-employee addressing a mail to the independent director with copies to audit committee, which was further forwarded to other members of the management. So knowing that fraudulent activities are come to the notice of many people, and also there was an apprehension that regulatory agencies such as SEC, that is Securities and Exchange Commission USA, and SEBI can plunge into action and take some action. So Ramalinga Raju himself came out with a revelation and confession via his email dated 7th January 2009, and wherein he admitted committing a fraud of 7,332 crores. Now, red flags. Were there any red flags in the Satyam's fiasco? In Satyam case, there are not many red flags actually. There are not many warning signals, and also there were some warning signals, but the gap between the warning and the confession of Mr. Raju is very, very narrow. The first red flag happened in December 2008, 16th December 2008, when Satyam agreed to acquire the Midas companies without proper shareholders' approval and at a very inflated price. Because Midas companies are controlled by the family of Mr. Raju. This is the first sign, first red flag. That is 16th December 2008. On 23rd December 2008, the second red flag appeared when the World Bank barred Satyam from doing business with it for 8 years. What for? For providing benefits to the bank staff in exchange of providing a lack of documentation on the invoices. You give bland documents, we'll give you some benefits. So that prompted the World Bank to bar Satyam from doing business with it for 8 years. Immediately after that, 4 out of 6 independent directors resigned. This is the second red flag. December 23, 2008. On December 26, 2008, Merrill Lynch signed as an advisor to the Satyam. They started their due diligence on Satyam. Just after 10 days, they quit the project by saying what? They said that in the course of their engagement, they have come across that there are material accounting irregularities. This happened on 6th Jan 2009. So this is the third red flag. And also if you see in case of Satyam, so there was a trend of reduction of receivables. And also there is a trend of increase in amount of time taken for collecting the receivables were happening, in a regular manner. So the important question comes: if the quality of receivables are declining, why the Satyam was taking lower positions? Maybe perhaps to understate the expenses. If the quality of receivable was improving, then why were they taking so much longer to collect? Maybe perhaps the Satyam was overstating the revenues. This is also an indicator, but this is there from 2006. People should study it, but that's a different matter. So because of this, so many things happened within very short span of time. Ultimately, what happened? Raju has sent his confession to the board of directors on January 7. 1 day after. 6th is the day on which Merrill Lynch stated that they have quit the due diligence project of the Satyam. 7th, he come out with a confession that there is a huge financial misappropriation and mismanagement happened. So what are the causes behind Satyam scam? So then we have done investigation. The investigation revealed that the falsification of accounts started somewhere 7-8 years ago. In that, what happened? The core group hatched a plan. What they have done, they have artificially jacked up the revenues as well as the profits in the books of accounts. It was carried out deliberately by leaving loopholes in the accounting software. So what they have done is they have cleverly done by using admin login, they can generate fictitious invoices. Not only they can generate fictitious invoices, they can conceal it from the view of other employees also. So in order to camouflage these fictitious collections, first what they have done, they have shown these collections in the bank book, in the current account maintained in the Bank of Baroda, New York branch. Then after that, subsequently, they transferred the monies to other banks. Due to falsification, what happened? Artificial cash and bank balances started mounting in the books of accounts. So increase in revenue and increase in profits attracted so many investors, which in turn made the share price reach new heights. So taking advantage of this, Sachem brothers sold their holdings at a very high price. They took a profit of around 3,000 crores somewhere in 2007-8 itself. Huge money. So the Rajus manipulated the books so that it appeared as a very big enterprise than actually it was. To achieve this, what they have done, they have stitched up the deals with fictitious clients. And they had large teams working on these fictitious projects. They have done two things. One is fictitious debtors. That means money receivable from clients is created, and fictitious payroll. That means ghost employees, who are working on ghost projects and fictitious projects. So they have introduced around 7,561 fake invoices into the company's computer system and recorded the sales. That simply did not exist. Obviously, over the years, these ghost debtors never paid their bills, leaving a big hole in Sachin's balance sheet, meaning only sales increased, not the cash. So he further forced the bank statement to show mountain of cash balance. Auditors, PwC, they never reconciled the bank statements with the actual cash flow and the third-party confirmation. So had they done, they would have come to know about the actual picture of the company. They have miserably failed in their job. And there were the fake bills in the system, and they could not spot it for about 7-8 years. And also what the company has done, the company has shown non-existent interest on bogus fixed deposits and paid taxes also on that to avoid the detection of fraud. In order to maintain the image of the company, Sachem spent huge amounts on brand building and customer relations. And so the on the inflated profits and increase the salaries based on the inflated profits. And they gave incentives also. Information, whatever actual information available, litigation was actually. This is called event fudging of accounts. These are the legally and socially. Actually, what happened because of this Sachem scam, there is an image to brand India and brand IT in particular. Were arrested, partners of audit firm are arrested and appointed the new manager. The Sachem script was, has come down by 78%. This is because of the Sachem scam. SEBI has taken so many, measures. Like, they have amended clause. Are aware that clause 49 deals with, listing agreement between a company and the stock exchange. It introduces some basic corporate governance practices. So the key changes are made in the, disclosures. The amended listing agreement, which included establishment of vigilance mechanism, role of audit committee, role of auditors in case of suspected fraud, and role of chief executive officer and chief financial officer, and reporting requirement on part of the audit committee, auditors, etc. And the rotation of auditors all have come because of this. They have changed this listing obligations and disclosure requirements rules also, which are applicable to all listed companies. They have provided stringent guidelines relating to the reporting and disclosures of material events of the suspected fraud. And MCA also has come up with so many guidelines, such as independence of the directors, the roles and responsibilities of the audit committee, the roles and responsibilities of the boards of companies, whistleblower mechanism, separation of office of chairman and CEO to ensure independence, and terms and conditions of appointment of directors, their tenure, remuneration, appointment of auditors and their tenure and remuneration, rotation of the auditors. All these things have come. And also this only forced the government to repeal Companies Act 1956, and they have introduced new Companies Act 2013, wherein corporate fraud was made as a criminal offense. They're all because under the Companies Act, there is a clear obligation cast on the auditors, cost accountants, and company secretaries. Responsibilities are fixed on auditors, cost auditors, and then rotation of auditors and audit companies, the class action suit against the company, disgorgement of assets of the directors, etc., have come into picture because of this Satyam fraud. This is all from my side. Any questions?
Yeah, we can take up the questions. Can you open the question? Yeah, the first question. So, Srinivasa, with your permission, shall we go ahead for the questions? Prasad, sir?
Yeah. Just a second, some problem with my system. This video is not opening. Just a second, please. Yeah.
Yes. I think screen you can close it.
Yes, sharing, I can close it, no?
Prasad, sorry, sir, I read your name. So first question is from Mr. Rajesh. Rajesh is asking, I have informed ESOP fraud of one of the startup company on MCA grievance email, but there's no reply. Can you suggest any email ID where we can share such frauds?
Yeah, with reference to fraud reporting, there is a very specific procedure wherein you have to address an email or letter to the secretary MCA, outlining the modus operandi of the fraud, and based on that modus operandi of the fraud and the evidences which you have given, that will be discussed in the oversight committee. And then based on the quantum of fraud, either it will be investigated by the ROC, RD, or SFIO. So you need to give all the information available to Secretary MCA.
Secretary MCA.
Yeah, Secretary
Yes,
MCA.
please.
Has to be addressed to Secretary MCA, and he has to refer to the ROC, RD, and
Yes.
So Mr. Rajesh, hope that answers your query. So next question is from Mr. Prasanna. Doesn't this verification of debts intrude the privacy of the individual?
See, you have to take a call on this, because I don't see it that way, because it may not intrude into the privacy of a particular person, because ultimately when he is going to be engaged by you, that particular person is going to work on your behalf. So his well-being is also your responsibility. If he is well, and if he is taken care of, automatically there is no possibility. There may be very little possibility of indulging in the fraudulent activities. So I suggest that people should go for it.
Exactly, sir. Well said, sir. So third question is, firstly, I would like to thank FTCCI. Thank you so much. And Mr. Prasad for explaining in detail insights on fraud. I would like to ask one question here. We had a few major white collar crimes like Punjab National Bank case and Mr. Vijay Mallya case. Both cases, like offender left the country and still we have not recovered as the crime amount involved. What areas of internal controls and measures has to be taken either in banking sector or service sector? Very
I'll address the banking sector first. See, when we investigate a issue, we will investigate the culpability of the bankers as well. Because is there any collusion? Is there any role for the banker? Whether intentionally they have circumvented the provisions and rules and regulations issued by the bank or the RBI. We will look into that. If any collusion is there, we will take action on the bankers. So bankers cannot go scot-free. Number two, whenever any investigation happens, what we will do is usually that we examine the flight risk of a person. And then if we found that there is a flight risk of a particular person, we go for opening up of LOC, lookout circulars. So we will ensure that lookout circulars are issued in time so that any suspected fellow cannot flee the country. So whenever, I mean, in respect of in SFIO investigation, I can vouch for that. We issue the LOCs, and then we will ensure that suspected fraudsters cannot flee the country.
Thank you, sir. Next question. Are there any kinds of frauds that are non-monetary and whether those also come under SFIO purview?
See, if you see the definition in 447, whether for any monetary gain or not, even if it is monetary gain or even it is monetary gain is not there also, if it is not in the best interest of the company, this will still come under the purview of the fraud, defined under 447. So immaterial whether the monetary benefits, pecuniary benefits are there or not, it is definitely a fraud under 447.
447 is the concerned section.
Yes.
How can we identify misappropriation or fraud adjustment if it is a small amount in nature, but overall crime or fraud involving chain mechanism from bottom to top in the corporate?
See, whether it is a small amount or big amount, if the misappropriation is with a very what do you call that, regularity, a periodicity, we need to look into it. Because if it's not about whether money is big or money is small, it is about the intent of the people. If the intention is to do the malpractices, today it may be small amount, tomorrow it may be big amount. So one thing is that if with the alarming regularity, if the misappropriation is happening, even if it is for small amounts, we need to look into and then we need to investigate that particular aspect.
Thank you.
Intention is one of the criteria for all the frauds, etc.
Yes.
Okay, so Mr. Ganesh, who is also thanking for your lovely presentation, sir. He has a query. Sir, given the corruption is high at statutory authorities in India, from permit to set up of the company to get licenses and approvals, the promoter starts in small amounts and makes the fraud big, including raising finances from bank, and many times the banker advises how to manage the working capital and other loans. These amounts are parked and routed through related parties, employees, advances, contractors, consultants. What is your suggestion to avoid this? We had pointed the basic requirement of all the corporates.
I'll come to this corruption issue first. Do you have any idea what is the quantum of investigations we are doing now at present? SFI? Maybe around 20 lakh crores.
20 lakh crores? What is it?
I am fraud amount. I am investigating about 1 lakh crore frauds.
Okay.
So 1 lakh crores or 20 lakh crores fraud, corruption happened. And also, I just teaser. I mean to say, it's not about corruption only happens in the government. What about corruption in the private sector? Don't you know that corruption also happens in private sector? In a huge way. In a huge way it happens. What is important is the intention. If you want to do it properly, you can do it properly. If you don't want to do it properly, the sky is the limit. So all the people who are there in either, be it central government or state government or be it in private sector, they are all picked up from society. We need to reflect on it. That's the point I want to make it on corruption angle. With reference to the bankers colluding with the companies, again, greed has no limitation. There is no limit to the greed. If they want to do it, they will come out with so many types of steps and measures to it. And also sometimes genuinely also bankers help the companies. It is not that every time they indulge in malpractices. No, I don't agree. Sometimes there is a pressure. I told you about a pressure of a financial metric pressure, like all your promotions, all your what is that, incentives based on the financial metric. Pressure on meeting the targets. Pressure on meeting targets also is one of the criteria in helping the companies. Sometimes they genuinely help the companies. Sometimes they don't. They do it in a fraudulent manner. So it depends on the psyche of a person. So now that a particular person wants to somehow get the loan, he will somehow get the loan. Okay, by the hook or by the crook. But we should be ready for that. I mean, that's what our psyche is.
Thank you, sir. Before we move on to the next question and answer session, I just want to announce our audience our flagship program, which we will be having on 28th October. With your permission, sir, I'll just take a minute.
Yes, please.
This is a Global Corporate Summit 2023. We are unlocking the opportunities in a dynamic world, and you will be surprised. We have invited a whole bouquet of CEOs, CFOs, and very intellectual brains will be sharing the platform on a single day. I'm sure you don't want to miss this. We have invited a CFO of PepsiCo, Nephroplus, CEOs of Paytm, and MedPlus, and few more will be added soon. And for global expansion, we have Israel, Kazakhstan, and Korea ambassadors who will be speaking on the opportunities to grow in their countries. We also are looking at sustainability era and growth, India's growth, where we have invited Tesla, ex-Tesla Asia Pacific head. He will be speaking on sustainable growth. And of course, life is for living. He is also a very good, famous writer who will be speaking on life skills and all. Yes, last but not the least, Ambassador Deepak Vora. If you Google Ambassador Deepak Vora, all his speeches go viral. He will be speaking on India's unstoppable story and where will India land in the next coming 10 years. So I'm sure you don't want to miss this, and please look for registration and enroll for the same. Coming back to our question and answers.
All the best for your upcoming program.
Thank you, sir. So Prasanna Panda is asking, please share on how PwC
Please report.
Sorry?
Please repeat.
Please share on how PwC missed to notice the irregularities.
I don't want to comment on this.
He is auditor of Satyam.
I don't want to comment on this. But as I told, there were fake invoices in place. And when the fake invoices are there, and usually what the auditor has to do, auditor has to verify their bank books, verify their bank statements, whether any matches are there between the bank book as well as the bank statement, whether cash flows are proper or not. Third party verification they have to do. They have to sometimes do the vendor verification. There sometimes has to do the look into various aspects of profiting and all those things. All this checks and balances the auditor firm is supposed to do, and simply they have failed. That's the reason the fraud perpetuated for almost 7-8 years without any notice.
1 minute, sir. In Satyam matter, his father was Satyanarayan Raju. He was dealing with enterprises. This Ramalinga Raju, after studying in abroad, came to India. Hey Baba, I start the computer services like that. Then he put it Satyam Computer Services Limited. At the time I was the registrar of companies in Andhra Pradesh. Then afterwards, he changed the name, and no, not changed the name. He has started Metas. It reversed the Satyam into Metas.
Yes.
This is all he himself has done all.
That's the main problem. That's the problem started with that merger of Satyam with Metas.
Merger of Satyam, and we were dealing in the Andhra Pradesh at that time, Andhra Pradesh High Court, then got it done, and afterwards, these all the problems have started. And this man wants to be very aggressive. What is aggressiveness in all these things? We are advised them, Arey Baba, don't all these things, but it so happened. And so many advisors are there.
It's very unfortunate. It's very unfortunate.
And impossible, because it is impossible. Very unfortunate.
Very
Even earlier, the community has got very good name in the society. Because of Satyam, it has fallen down like that. And I am sharing with you, don't take it.
Yeah. Because I also personally, on personal note, I also feel very bad because it's a world-class, software service provider from our land. So, I mean, it's very sad for me.
And he has also involved brother. Brother is a very good man. He's a Ravi Kumar Rao, he's a very good man.
Thank you, sir. Coming from ex-ROC. Next question, what is the role of political parties in controlling frauds? When their supporting parties are involved in frauds, and what are the autonomous powers given juridical authority in punishing such fraudulent activity? What pre-remedial actions to be taken to control further happening of frauds? Why can't periodical serious audit reports be conducted from government side?
Oh, so many questions loaded in a single one. There is no role for any political party in any investigation. Let us be very clear about it. Political parties don't have any role whatsoever in investigation of any fraud. Number one. Number two, the government and the government agencies are only and solely responsible for the investigation of the affairs of the company. And with respect to, I can't vouch for other agencies, but in respect of the Serious Fraud Investigation Office, central government assigns the investigations to the SFIO. So whatever cases which are assigned to investigation to the SFIO, we will be investigating. That's it. But that is the role of the agency with reference to identifying the investigations and all. Now, what we should do to stop the frauds? Yeah, I told you that fraud assessment we can do, fraud checklist we can follow it up, and periodical internal audit. We can do. The audit department we have to strengthen in the companies, and audit department has to take lead and verify all the processes whether there is integrity is there in the processes or not. That we need to see. From the company's perspective, from MCA perspective, we are looking into introducing an early warning system methodology. We are working on it based on the disclosures made by the companies. what are all the different permutation and combinations are there by which we can look into and we can take action based on the early warning mechanism. And that is there, that is still in discussion with the various stakeholders. Once we formalize it, probably we will be introducing very soon.
I think hardly 1 or 2 questions are left, sir. Mr. Ajay is asking, what shall be the action from management for a fraud detected by them from a supplier, and how the supplier can be charged before SFIO?
One thing is that, if any case, any dispute is there between the company and the vendor, or third party, and third party is indulging in fraudulent activities against the company. If the management comes to know of it, they have to take legal recourse, and there is a EOW department in the police. They have to file a case with the police, and they have to investigate with reference to 420 of IPC and all, cheating and misappropriation, all those things. The activity, whatever activities which are indulged in by the vendor, we should take it to the police and we have to get it verified and file the proper charge sheet. That is the way. And in respect of SFIO investigations, as I already told you, central government will assign the cases to the SFIO. So we don't have any role in pick and choosing of any investigation.
Sure, sir. Thank you. I think we can close that. So one more question, sir. Since most of the white collar fraud are involving influential people, what would be the personal challenges and how is it addressed? And there's one more question. What are the options for whistleblowers policy and safeguards?
See, first thing is that, if a company's turnover is 5,000, 10,000 crores or 20,000 crores, automatically he'll be an influential person. There is no doubt about it. But it will not have any bearing on the investigation per se, because when it comes to a person, whether he is influential or not, he is an accused before the eyes of the investigating agency. And we will be looking into the various aspects, whether they have done properly as per the procedure or not. If it is not done as per procedure, we will be filing the prosecutions. And with reference to whistleblower mechanism, a robust whistleblower mechanism should be there in each company. And then there should be, anonymous mechanism also should be there, so that, people can approach the management without any fear of reprisal. Because if anonymous channel is there, they will freely come and tell you that these things are happening. So whoever comes and whoever shares the information, then we should be, kind enough not to, take any coercive action on them. So management also should be wary about it. And if any information is there, straight away information can be shared with the secretary MCA. So automatically, when any fraud angle is there, that will be looked into and investigated by any of the agency.
Thank you, sir. There's one more question, sir. Are there any empowerment-oriented powers to SFIO to reward the whistleblowers and also to protect them?
See, as of now, there is no reward mechanism as such. As of now, reward mechanism is there in DRI and other agencies, but as of now, reward mechanism is not there. But if any person who is indulging in activities, and if he is aware of it, he can share the information. If it is a live investigation, we will make use of those information in our investigation. If not, we will send it to the MCA for further proper action.
Fine, sir. I think we had you had answered all the questions very politely and very lovely, patiently. Shall we close the session?
Yeah.
So,
One doubt, sir. Sir, is this only for corporate cases or for all non-corporate cases also? Is it covered? SFIO means partnership firms or non-profit organizations, corporate societies,
The companies and LLPs are covered.
companies and LLCs.
Companies and LLPs are covered. The firms, I mean, the partnership and all will not come under.
Because this SFIO is under companies act.
Section 447, kindly see.
So, Mr. Prasad, over the Zoom, we had almost 80 participants, and it was going live on YouTube also. So almost 200 participants were watching you live, and I am sure they really enjoyed the entire PPT. As they say, rather fail with honor than succeed by fraud. So today you had pinpointed all the measures, awareness, how to avoid a fraud. I personally thank every dignitary on the dais and with folded hands to our humble speaker, Mr. Prasad. Thank you so much, sir. There are numerous ways a fraud can happen in a business, big or small. I'm sure a robust fraud prevention approach, like you said, fraud risk assessment, fraud prevention checklist, and being vigilant all the time is the basic key to prevent the fraud and protect the company. Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable time. And very special thanks to all the participants for being there till the end of the session. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.